Thank you so much for this opportunity to ask this question. So, you recently, in your last visit to the USA, you made a tweet speaking directly to Sikhs in India and abroad. And in that, you talk about what India under the BJP would look like, where you ask, will you be allowed to wear gadas? Would you allowed to be wear turbans under the BJP? So you create a fear amongst the Sikhs about what the BJP would look like. But you talked about how politics should be fearless. There should be nothing to be afraid of, right? But we don't just want to wear garas. We don't just want to tie our turbans. We want freedom of expression, which under the Congress Party in the past has not been allowed. For example, the Anandpur Sahib resolution, which you're probably familiar with, talks about these Dalit rights, right? Rights of water. It talks about better working conditions, anti-monopoly. It mentions nothing of separatism, but it's labeled as a separatist document. This is something your party has done, and your party seems to lack the maturity to accept the mistakes it has made, such as Sajjan Kumar just now being tried. And there's many more Sajjan Kumars currently sitting in the Congress Party. KPS Gill is hailed as a hero, yet you tell us to fear what the BJP India would look like. But you've never really tried to reconcile
brother, what's the
with the
question?
Sikhs.
Yeah, no. I think it's a minute now.
What's your question?
The point
Yes,
is,
I will get to my
So what's the
question.
question?
You haven't tried to reconcile with the Sikhs. What attempts are you making? Because if you continue like this, BJP is also going to make its way into
No,
Punjab. Right?
first of all, I don't think that really anything scares the Sikhs. That's the first point. The statement I made was that, look, do we want an India where people are uncomfortable to express their religion? As far as mistakes of the Congress Party are concerned, a lot of those mistakes happened when I was not there. But I'm more than happy to take responsibility for everything that the Congress Party has ever done wrong in its history.
The question is, what are you doing to reconcile? If
I
that's what I would
have
answer
been to the,
That was my question.
Yeah.
I have been, I have publicly stated that what happened in the 80s was wrong. I have been to the Golden Temple multiple times. I have an extremely good relationship with the Sikh community in India and a loving relationship with them.
Question here.
Hey, hi Rahul, I'm Asad. The Bharat Jodo Yatra came up multiple times, but it was also a very controlled and non-confrontational sort of march. I wanted to ask that, given that some of the BJP's biggest political setbacks in the past decade has been through street-level disruptive protests, whether it be the farm laws or the anti-CA-NRC protest, why has the opposition shied away from initiating such protests? Like, for example, you said the Election Commission has been compromised. Why not do an immediate gherav or a chakka jam in front of an Election Commission until the demands are met?
We do, but there is a very powerful repressive structure and element that stops us, right? And that's not really visible, but there is a big machine that stops all these types of activities, threatens people, attacks people. We've been involved in a number of these agitations. We were involved in the farmer protests. We were raising it in Parliament. We were raising it outside Parliament. Our party was involved in it, and we pick up these type of protests. But you have to realize there is a system of repression in play that is very aggressive and stops them. I'll give you an example. You know, when the Agniveer issue came up, we started organizing a lot of the Agniveers, and then one fine day, all the people who had lost their jobs because of the Agniveer were called up and said, listen, if we see your face protesting, you will never get a government job again. And that was the end of the protest, right? So there's a hidden machine that attacks these type of protests.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gandhi. My question is very, very simple. Effectively asking, why are you coming here at this time now? Just out of curiosity.
Because Ashutosh invited me.
Sure, but why did you
and
accept this invitation to come and speak now at this institution?
Because I respect him and I like the work he does. And I thought it would be an interesting conversation. It would be nice to meet young people and understand what they're thinking about.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I was wondering that given that India is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases, to what extent do you think it is the role of the Indian government to mitigate these emissions?
I think it's an important part of what the government should do. And I think making a transition to green, more environmentally sound energy is a good thing. And it's a strategic imperative as well. So I would support that.
Yes.
Thank you for coming and speaking with us. So you often speak against against inequality, against corruption, against political power grabs, and against democratic decline. Yet many argue that your political influence stems from inherited power, shaped by your grandmother Indira Gandhi's consolidation of power and wealth during her tenure, and not your performance and not your grassroots leadership. This political dynasty is weakening democratic institutions just as much as Modi's authoritarianism, especially given claims against your competency in leading. How do you reconcile your rise through your family legacy while claiming to amplify marginalized voices? How do you define democracy within your own party that has long been centered around your last name? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm not the president. I'm not the president of my party. The president of my party is Mr. Kharge, who's an elected president. Second, look, it's up to the people of India to decide who they feel is representing their issues. If you go and speak to weaker sections, you go and speak to Dalit communities, you speak to backward communities and ask them what they think about the work I'm doing, you'll get the answer. I'm not going to sit here and defend my position. I don't need to. I work for certain ideas, I work for certain ideals, and I protect them. And I work really, really hard to protect them. I don't think there's another politician who's walked 4,000 kilometers across my country. And I don't think there's another politician who has gone so deeply into the suffering of our people, at least in our current situation. So I'm actually quite proud of what I do, and I think I will continue to do it. Of course, there'll be people who will tag me as coming from a dynasty, and that's your prerogative, and I'm very, very happy for you to do so.
Question.
Hi, my name is Aparajit. The BJP, for all of its ideological malevolence, is known for being united, being a cadre-based organization. Everyone at the end of the day is a foot soldier. You know, when I talk to my relatives and friends in New Jersey, where I'm from, they sort of see the Congress Party as susceptible to individual egos, infighting, and things of this nature. So do you think that impression is correct? And also, how do you want to match the grassroots level organization that I think the BJP has sort of perfected over so many generations?
The design of the Congress Party is completely different than the design of the BJP. The BJP is designed to centralize power and transmit a message. The Congress Party is designed to decentralize power and listen to the people. So the last thing we would want to do is have a rigid cadre base like the BJP does. It would destroy our DNA. They're two completely different roles, and we're quite happy to sort of have the internal tensions that we do. It reflects the type of conversation, the type of democratic structure that we have inside. A lot of the people in the BJP hate Mr. Modi, absolutely detest him, but they can't say anything about it. We sit in parliament and we hear what the BJP people have to say about him, but you cannot say it. In our party, people are free to criticize. I mean, we have people in our party who criticize us openly. We're perfectly okay with it. We don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. I'd like to follow up on the first student's question.
Could you speak into the microphone? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we can lower it for you. Yeah.
It's okay. This is okay.
Yeah.
I'm following up on the first student's question. So in supporting the Sikh community, you mentioned being loved by this community and visiting the Golden Temple. I would say this is not the same as listening to the grievances of minorities. So I'm curious what concrete steps you've taken to systematically uplift and reconcile with minorities such as Sikhs and Dalits, and what is the tangible impact of these steps you've taken? Thank you.
Look, I'm not in government right now, So I'm not taking policy steps, but if you look at what I do, wherever there is an attack on minorities, wherever there is violence against minorities, I tend to go there. I tend to support them. I tend to work with them. There are multiple cases of atrocities against Dalits, against women, against lower castes, against poor people, and I try and sort of engage with them and help them. But I'm not in a policy position right now. If you look at the work that the Telangana government and the Karnataka government are doing, and particularly what I was talking about, the caste census, those are two completely revolutionary ideas, and they will absolutely help the minorities in those states as well.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And my question is sort of, in today's day and age, AI has become more and more important, and the future of India as a great global power will likely depend on AI. What do you think should be AI? What do you think should be India's future on AI, and specifically whether investments in India should be targeting, should be targeting risks that India might have in the adoption of AI in the future, for example, dependence on foreign labs or chip imports from, for example, China. Where do you think India should stand on this?
I think AI has to sit on information network and on data. And without access to data, AI doesn't really mean anything. If you look at who owns data today, China owns most production data. They are the people who know how to make mobile phones. They are the people who understand production data. And the United States, at least in the Western world and India, owns consumption data. So Indian AI is going to be restricted by the amount of data that you have access to. So there's a lot of data in the government space, and there's a lot of other data that you can use for AI. But India's limitations as far as AI is concerned is the data the AI is going to sit on. So I would think about ways to improve our access to both consumption and production data.
Yes.
Hi. Going back to democratic backsliding, you sort of affirmed that India's status as a liberal democracy and electoral democracy were sort of diminishing, but didn't really say anything about the consequences of that. So I'm curious as to, given today's political climate, what does it mean to be the opposition, or how do you approach being the opposition?
I mean, the role of the opposition is completely changed now. Changed in 2014. There's now a completely different architecture we deal with. I said some of the consequences I mentioned, some of the consequences of this backsliding, the increase in the size of the deep state, the weakening of the constitutional framework, the weakening of our institutions. And these are all things that create foundational problems in our country.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi, and welcome to Brown.
Thank you.
My question is, we've seen a global movement of right-wing populism, and some have argued that the BJP is part of this. So there's right-wing nationalist leaders in charge in India, as you've said, but also in the United States, many parts of Latin America, and in Europe. On the flip side, though, Prime Minister Modi has marketed himself as representative of the Indian majority, as a part of a majoritarian movement, as a chaiwala, someone who came up from the grassroots. Why do you, as the heir to a very powerful family, think you're the best messenger to contrast this message and relate to ordinary Indians?
I don't view it as being a messenger. I view it much more as being a listener. So what I do is I try and understand the pain that India's people are going through. I try and understand the unfairness that they're going through, and I try and help that. I don't view myself as a messenger in any way. I like to raise the people's voice, Prime Minister of India, of course, apparently has a direct connection with the divine. And he said that, I speak directly to God. I don't profess that capability.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Gandhi. As a scientist, it baffles me how much superstitions and pseudoscience thrive in India, and particularly in past 11 years. And these Babas and godmen have been used as a political tool. So, what measures will you take to make people more rational and more logical?
I think people are quite rational. I think the number of people who are affected by what you're speaking about are marginal. They're not in the majority. But I would focus on education. I would focus on rational scientific education, and I would spend a lot more money on educating people and also providing them with different types of opportunities.
Thank you.
I think a lot of you get superstitious when you don't have opportunity. You get superstitious when you can't see a future for yourself. So I think there's a relationship between increase in superstition, increase in fear, and the imagination of people.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you for being here. My name is Mahir. I wanted to ask you about Bangladesh-India relations today. So two aspects of this. First, former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is in India right now after she fled.
Are you from Bangladesh?
My parents are, so yes.
Yeah.
After she fled the protest situation in July 2024, and then also the use of rivers and maritime pathways in Bangladesh. So I was wondering if you could highlight on this dispute going on, whether India should return Sheikh Hasina back to Bangladesh so that she can be prosecuted for cracking down on those protests.
I'm not gonna poke my nose into that issue.
Okay, then I'll ask you about the maritime. How do you think India and Bangladesh should resolve the maritime issues and river exploitation?
No, I think they should cooperate for a win-win situation, but I'm not going to really comment on the Sheikh Hasina issue because that's I'm not going to poke my nose in that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi. I've always struggled internally with reconciling the ideals of freedom expressed in the Constitution and talking to the women in my family and them sharing how unfree, unsafe, insecure they feel. To what extent is this a problem in the political domain? Is it a political failure? Does it require a political solution? And what is your outlook on the state of women in India?
It's a huge problem. And not just in politics, across the board in India. I think the way women are treated in India is atrocious. In politics, there's some good stuff that has happened. There's a reservation for women in the third tier of government. And now, in a few years, there's going to be in Lok Sabha and in Vidhan Sabha. So that's good. But I think it's also an attitudinal thing. And I think a lot of work has to be done to change the approach men have towards women in politics, in business, in other spaces. But I would agree with you that India doesn't treat its women very kindly.
Thank you.